Well, for the past month, I've been playing Come Deliverance 2 every second I can. The hype around this game was high before its release, but it's somehow come out and exceeded all expectations. During this time, I've been posting videos about the game like an obsessed fanboy and been responding to comments as such. Most shared my enthusiasm for the game, but one comment made a particular statement about how they loved the open world, the side quests, the writing, and pretty much everything about the game, but they just wish there were dungeons that they could enter all across the map, just like Skyrim. Now, naturally there are no dungeons in this game because it's based on real Bohemian history. As much as we'd all love to find caves full of monsters, bandits and ghosts, Warhorse Studios were going for realism with this game, and this just wouldn't fit the realistic world that they've built. But then I got to thinking, why hasn't any game done this yet? Why is there no Skyrim 2? And I'm not talking about the Elder Scrolls 6 here. At this point, I'm convinced it's like a sighting of Bigfoot. It's just rumours and speculation. There's no such thing that the Elder Scrolls 6 is real or even exists. But putting that game to the side, why has no other gaming studio come out and tried to replicate Skyrim? It's been 14 years since Skyrim first released, and it could be many more years before a sequel arrives. Skyrim sold over 60 million copies since its release, making it one of the most successful video games of all time, but for some reason, no one copied the formula. If someone loves Skyrim and everything that it offered, and then they asked for a recommendation for a game just like it, is there really an answer? I'd argue no. You could give some recommendations that are sort of like Skyrim, but none that are Skyrim 2. Even today, 14 years after its release. Even Avowed, the recent game that came out from Obsidian, was called Skyrim Lite. Not necessarily because it was anything like Skyrim, in fact it missed about 90% of what Skyrim had, but there is so little competition to Skyrim as an exact formula that even that game got a shout out. So in this video, I plan to explain what the Skyrim model is, cover some games that have been compared to it, and then explain why they're not the same, and finally I will show the game that I think may finally copy the formula. And don't worry, it's not the Elder Scrolls 6. It's Avowed. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Quick side note, if you love video game discussions, particularly about single player RPGs, please consider subscribing. Also, we now have a Discord channel, so if you fancy chatting, please use the first link in the description. Okay, let's get back to it. So first of all, let me explain what the Skyrim model is, to me at least. So first of all, it is a giant open world where you can go anywhere at any time. The world is made up of many towns and NPCs who give you quests and they live their own lives. NPCs wake up in the morning, go to work in the day, then go to sleep at night. As you explore this map, you can uncover these locations in any order you want. Now, many games have gotten this part right too. So, from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 to The Witcher 3 and even Dragon's Dogma 2. These are open worlds that you can explore freely and stop by settlements where you can find side quests and activities. But this is only one part. The second part is that you can make your own character. You design their look, their race, and you create their own background. Again, this has been done by other studios, like Dragon's Dogma 2, Avowed, and Baldur's Gate 3. So other studios have added the character creator option as well. But then there is a third part. The open world of Skyrim is full of not just towns and quests, but dungeons. In Skyrim, there are over 200 dungeons that you can go into and explore. Each one may reuse some assets, but they're all different enough that you can see something unique in each one. Sometimes there are many side quests to be found within, secret treasures or unique boss fights. This aspect is very important, and we've seen games like Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring, and even Avowed attempt to copy the formula there, but not to the same scale. Avowed only has 16 dungeons in its entirety. Elden Ring has 53. Dragon's Dogma 2 has 70, which is closer, but some are extremely short, and rarely do they have any side quests related to them. Then we have the RPG stats like lockpicking, stealth, archery, etc., which can be upgraded over time as you invest more time into each skill. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a good example of a game that not only matched Skyrim, but exceeded it in this regard. And then finally we have the ability to own a home. Witcher 3 added this option in its Blood and Wine expansion, and in Cyberpunk it allows you to purchase apartments. but neither of those games let you build a customizable home from scratch. The addition of magic wielding abilities has been matched potentially improved in games like Hogwarts Legacy and Avowed, and a huge array of mythical creatures can be seen in games like Witcher 3, but it's all about the entire package. Finally, there is the ability to pick up any item within the world of Skyrim. This might not seem important, but no other game has done this as well. Baldur's Gate 3 lets you pick up almost anything, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 lets you grab a lot too, but no game outside of Bethesda's model has allowed so much interactivity within its world. I'm sure there is more that makes Skyrim so unique, but mainly the point is, it's a giant open world full of mythical creatures, dungeons, and allows the player to create their own character and roleplay. It also contains hundreds of side quests. Since Skyrim released, no one game has managed to replicate it or take its spot exactly. We might argue some do things better or come close, but as a complete package of everything, we're still waiting. If you were to Google games like Skyrim, you'd be given many suggestions, but none would give you the exact same formula, and I'll go over them now. I will be omitting any Bethesda titles like Fallout and Starfield, as they are Bethesda, and The Elder Scrolls Online 2. My argument here is that no competitor has tried to copy the Skyrim model. Bethesda obviously can. This is why The Elder Scrolls 6 still gets media attention, as no one has managed to copy their formula to the same level or better. So starting with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, this game is probably the closest in terms of matching Skyrim with 2025 graphics. It has the giant open world, lots of side quests, towns that are full of NPCs and medieval combat. It also offers great RPG decision making and stats to level up. It is one of the greatest games I've ever played. As far as an open world goes, like a living, breathing open world, I'd say it's better than Skyrim's. This game, though, cannot be considered exactly the same as Skyrim, as first of all, there are no dungeons, and secondly, because it's based on historic accuracy. This game has no mythical creatures, giant tombs of undead, or magic of any kind, simply because it isn't real. Although it provides a great sense of adventure, and it's a true role-playing game, it doesn't have those features. Sometimes we just want to play a game with the fictional creatures, and this game does not try to accomplish that. You also play as Henry, so you cannot create your own character. So this ticks the RPG and open world, but it misses on the mythical creatures in the dungeons. Baldur's Gate 3 is next up, and we have the ability to customize our own character. We have our mythical creatures here, and an open world to explore full of side quests. It comes close and has a much better story than Skyrim, but it differs in many ways as well. First of all, it's turn-based, which is very different and puts a lot of Skyrim players off. It also does not have any dungeons, and although it offers freedom in decision making and role-playing, you cannot just explore the entire map from the get-go. Its top-down third-person view is different as well. Witcher 3 is also a game thrown around a lot when you're talking about Skyrim. This game has a much larger map and you can explore it all. It has lots of towns with NPCs. It also has all the mythical creatures and more that were found in Skyrim. It improves on Skyrim's main story and offers over 100 side quests, but each side quest far exceeds Skyrim's design. Each side quest is unique, well written, has good voice acting and branching storylines. They also all contain decision making, meaning you can change the outcome. Witcher 3 is an incredible game, but you play as Geralt, so you can't create your own character. Also, there are no dungeons really, just some caves that you can go into, but not the same as Skyrim. A great game in its own right, but different in many ways. Elden Ring is a close contender, as it has many dungeons, each unique. It's full of monsters and mythical creatures, and it even has dragons. You can explore the huge open world from the get-go, and it has its own Blackreach too. There are many similarities to Skyrim here in that you create your own character and explore the world at your leisure. The issue falls in the cozy aspect. There are no towns. The side quests are not in the same quantity as Skyrim, and you can't build or live in your own home. Elden Ring went for something totally different, and it's more about exploration and combat, which is fine by the way, but it misses that relaxation aspect that Skyrim has, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 also has. Elden Ring's world feels deadly, whereas Skyrim's feels safe in some parts. Avowed just released, and I did a video on that here where I explain why it isn't Skyrim 2.0, but in a nutshell, the towns feel artificial, the quests are quite limited, and the game only has 16 dungeons. The world map is also split into 4 areas, and they all feel quite restrictive in terms of exploration. It is more linear than open, and it's highly level gated. You cannot go anywhere from the get-go, as your gear and level have to be at the required stats in order for you to progress. Although people have referred to it as Skyrim Light, it's very light. Basically, it's Skyrim but everything worse. Smaller open world, less quests, less dungeons, worse combat, that's all it is. Both Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are quite close. It is a giant open world from the beginning and you can go anywhere at any time. Tears of the Kingdom is even more close because it has a lot of towns full of NPCs going about their business, lots of side quests and a giant map to explore. You can also buy your own house and customize it, and it actually has over 200 caves that you can enter and explore. Mythical creatures are everywhere too, so it certainly does come very close, but the thing is, you're Link. It doesn't have any role-playing stats either, and it doesn't quite match that feeling of Skyrim. It's special in its own way though. Cyberpunk is a game that I see mentioned as well, but it's set in a much different time. It's based on the future, and with the first-person shooting and the drivable cars, it feels more like a mix of GTA and Fallout. It has a good leveling system, and you can buy homes, and it does have some dungeons I guess and side quests, but it just feels so different to Skyrim. Just look at the difference on screen. Both are great RPGs and tick different boxes, but they're not the same. And finally, the other one I thought of was Dragon's Dogma 2. This is actually the game that I felt came closest to matching that Skyrim feeling. It has a giant open world with towns of which you can visit, it's free to explore from the beginning, and it has tons of side quests to complete. The open world is a joy to traverse through, and there are many dungeons that you can visit as well. You can also buy homes as well, but there is much different here as well. It comes close to matching Skyrim, but it still feels different. Definitely an underrated game, and I'll be doing a video on it soon, but with the pawns and the story setup, it just doesn't have the exact same formula as Skyrim. Now, I'm sure there are many other games that you could also bring up as example of games that are similar to Skyrim, but these are the ones that jump out to me immediately. And Google. Now, each of these games are incredible in their own right, but they also differ much from the Bethesda formula that was set up in Skyrim. Even Bethesda's own game, Starfield, removed this model when it stopped handcrafted worlds, opting instead for procedural generation instead. It also only has around 16 dungeons, which is far less than what we saw in the previous games. So, although all the games I mentioned are phenomenal in their own ways, and have many aspects that are seen within Skyrim, none copy the model to its full potential. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has the more realistic world, NPCs, and role-playing aspects. Elden Ring has the better combat and open world. Baldur's Gate 3 has the better story and decision making, and Witcher 3 has the better side quests. All of these games have improved on Skyrim's model in some way, but no one game has managed to package it all together and give us the Skyrim 2 that we all want. These games exceed in some parts, but lack in other parts. So despite them being objectively better than Skyrim in many ways, without them offering everything that that game had, we all still have to await a Skyrim 2, or The Elder Scrolls 6. There is no Skyrim 2. And that is incredibly surprising when you consider how successful the game was. I guess my question is, why? Why has no other gaming studio attempted to steal their spot? Whilst Bethesda left their own model after Fallout 4's release and then went on to make the MMORPG Fallout 76 and the procedural generated Starfield, many years have passed where fans have craved another replica of the Skyrim formula. But no one's come in and snapped up that space. It seems very strange to me. I'm not suggesting that any of these games should do that, as they've gone their own way and it's incredibly successful. It's just surprising that this is the closest that we've seen. They are all special in their own unique way, but even to this day, people still play Skyrim as they haven't found the game to move over to. No one has managed to copy the model Bethesda set within that game. Now I'd argue Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is probably the closest. If you threw in some random monsters and a few hundred dungeons, you'd probably be looking at the spiritual successor to Skyrim, but they went for a different angle, focusing on realism. Bethesda is a company that have burned their fans for years. They've lied to them and diverted from what made them so successful. I did a video on that here, but the bottom line is, since Skyrim, Bethesda have basically gone off to make poorer games. Fallout 4 has a mixed reception, Fallout 76 is an online looter shooter, and Starfield received loads of criticism. It's been 14 years since Skyrim's release, and yet whenever we hear any leak of The Elder Scrolls 6, we all pay attention. Why? Because we never got a Skyrim 2. If we got Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 with the dungeons and monsters like I mentioned, we might give up on Bethesda. We might tell them to keep their Elder Scrolls 6, we've all moved on. But since none of those games have come in and replicated it exactly, we still hold our breath. Even Sky Oblivion's YouTube channel has over 250,000 subscribers. Fans are waiting and looking for anything that can match that formula that they loved in Skyrim, but so far, not quite. It's the only reason why Bethesda still has a fighting chance, because if I took 14 years to make a YouTube video, I doubt many people would still be sat here waiting for it. So why isn't there a Skyrim replica or a game that's followed the model to a T? Well, I have a few working theories, but they're only hypotheses. First of all, one reason could be that the creation engine, used by Bethesda, provides a substantial amount of interactivity with the environment. So to match this, other studios would have to spend a lot of time and resources in order to match it, and they may just feel that it's not worth it. It requires commitment to a design that's not very optimal in terms of payoff. Bethesda themselves have had many issues with their own engine, and Starfield was an example of this. Video here. Another angle could be that Bethesda know their formula so well, so they were able to improve with each release, as we saw from Morrowind, then Oblivion, and then Skyrim. Each game was a slightly improved version. Other companies would be starting from scratch on a project of very large scope, which wouldn't guarantee the same level of success. So they go in another direction and make their own style that's unique to them in order to stand out, rather than copy a Bethesda model, which has now shown its age with games like Starfield. And finally, it could just be that Skyrim was lightning in a bottle. It was the perfect game at the perfect time. It's known now to be as wide as an ocean and as deep as a puddle. Maybe in 2011 we accepted this and nostalgia has made this game stand out to us and survive the times. But maybe if we got Skyrim today, in 2025, we would be disappointed. Maybe we can never get another Skyrim because even though people may want it, when it actually arrives, we may no longer feel that way. I spoke to a young man the other night in his early 20s and I asked him what he thought about Skyrim. He said he didn't really play it, but he loved Elden Ring. So maybe the gaming world has just moved on, and even though I and others may beg for a second Skyrim-like game, or a game with the exact same formula, maybe it wouldn't be a success, and if a studio took that gamble and it didn't pay off, well, that could be the end. Dragon's Dogma 2 is a good example as it was so close to the Skyrim formula, but when you look at the reviews, it was very divisive. Any of these reasons could be the main focus on why no studio has tried to copy the Skyrim model stride for stride. So, will anyone ever take that spot? Well, that leads me to a game that I do have high hopes for, The Wayward Realms. Under the direction of Ted Peterson and Julian LeFay, the lead developers of the team that worked on Elder Scrolls Arena and Daggerfall, Once Lost Games is creating a new open-world fantasy RPG where your choices, consequence, scope and role-playing will be experienced just on a grander scale than a Skyrim. Essentially, this game will be just like the Elder Scrolls series but larger, way bigger than most of the games that we think of today. Big cities with hundreds or thousands of NPCs, deep, dark, dangerous forests, gigantic mountain ranges, sprawling swamps, marshlands, vast oceans, and much more. You create your own character and create your own story. It looks like a natural evolution to a game like Skyrim, and it pretty much ticks all the boxes required. It is a game that I'm personally very excited for, and it's set to release in 2025. My only concern is that they will be using procedural generated content to make the game. Now, I'm sure there's a way to make a great game while using that, but I'm a fan of handcrafted content. Also, I have never seen it used effectively. It always sort of feels watered down to me. But either way, I'm very excited about this game in particular. Now, just to say, I love all these games. I would argue that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Witcher 3 are probably better games than Skyrim, at least for me personally. I've played a lot of open world RPGs that I would consider equal to or greater than Skyrim since its release. My point is that no one game has come in and managed to be its replacement. They've scratched the itch in other ways, or they've improved on it in some aspects, like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's world is probably more realistic than Skyrim's, but none of them have come in and managed to bring the whole package. If someone asks, what game is most similar to Skyrim, you can't answer that question definitively without having to add in yeah, but this part is different. This game's sort of like Skyrim, but it's different in this way. After 14 years of the release of one of the most successful games ever, and a dedicated fanbase who are still loyal to this game and still play it even today and craving another game like it, it amazes me that we're still sat here in 2025 without a direct replacement. That's either huge testament to Bethesda or a huge gap in the gaming market. I love all these games that I've just listed and I've enjoyed them greatly. But outside of other Bethesda titles, none would make me say, well, I don't need Skyrim anymore, I can throw it in the bin. This is the new Skyrim. If you want that true, unmatched Skyrim experience, then the only game you can really play is Skyrim. But anyway, that's it for this one. Sorry I never really landed on a point, but I just kind of want to have a discussion about it. I mean, what do you guys think? Which game do you think is the closest to a Skyrim? Do you know of any other games that are touted to be the next Skyrim? Or do you think the games I listed have exceeded it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it the thumbs up. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'm Av Gaming, where we do video game analysis, identifying what makes great games great and what could make good games great as well. Thanks for watching. Av out.